Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Redeem for Time podcast. I am so excited today because we are bringing on one of our speakers. It's going to be here at the It's Time conference. And if you've been paying attention to what we've been talking about around this conference, this is not just like any old conference. Yes, we're going to be together in Nashville in September, but we got a whole bunch of stuff going on between now and then, which is why the sooner you grab your ticket, the sooner your growth starts. We want to maximize the time and not waste it being busy and distracted and a whole bunch of things. So, as you're listening today, I want you to really think about what it would be like to be in the room and actually get to hear our guest in real life. So, Elizabeth, I am so glad that you are here today with us. You and I have had a lot of fun connecting over the past couple of months after God allowed our paths to cross at a live event. So, we're going to be in Nashville together. So let's start there. Scale of 1 to 10. What is your current Nashville vibe, and why would you say that?
I would say,
I'm sorry, country vibe. I said Nashville vibe. I meant country
I
vibe.
was like 10 for Nashville because I love the city. It is so vibrant, the city, and there's so much rich history. But I would say now an 8 with country. I went to school in the South and I learned a country dance, and it is absolutely one of my favorite things to do. However, and I listen to country music all through my 20s and 30s. And then, I listen to a lot of obviously worship music. And now you can find country worship, which is fun.
Yes.
But man, I love a good country dance and a y'all. I'll just tell you that right now. So I would say I'm an 8.5 solid.
Nice. And you're in Arizona, where there seems to be a little bit more like southwesty, influence and things like that, I think, as well. So I
There
love
is, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get to hang out with you not only at the conference, but also in the pre-conference connection space between now and then. But today in the podcast, I want to get to know you a little bit more. So tell us, I just kind of, I guess, spilled the beans there, where you are in the country and what all are you juggling in this season of life outside of the business and ministry stuff that you do?
Juggling is a great word. I love that. Well, I am in, like you mentioned, Phoenix, Arizona. I am in the desert. We moved here almost 5 years ago from the Pacific Northwest. So literally moved us here figuratively and physically or literally in the desert. We had a lot of growing as a family, and God was transitioning us in a huge way in a short amount of time. So yeah, we've been here almost 5 years. It is hot. I'm not going to lie, but I will tell you that the last summer I handled it well. And so this is home now, and there's a lot of beauty here. And as far as juggling, I have 5 kids and a wonderful husband, 2 cats and a dog, a puppy, which is, yes.
That's a lot of work, right?
Get a puppy at Christmas, said no one ever.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, so my husband and I have, in our 5 kids, 2 of them are adopted from China and 3 of them have special needs. So our hearts and our mission field is really here at home and also other special needs families. We have a ministry that we launched less than a year ago called Moment to Moment Ministries, which is basically a faith-based nonprofit that loves and takes care of the caregivers and parents in a special needs family, as well as the typical siblings that surround some of these kiddos and adults. And we do things like retreats and embrace groups. We're writing a curriculum for small groups, and we are going to have sibling hangouts, different age groups with those typical siblings that surround the special needs kiddos and go through a lot. So that's one thing. And then my other heart is for ministry in women and all ages. And so my best friend and I started a platform called Bold Faith and Freedom Sisters, called BFFs. And we actually just launched this this past Tuesday, our first 3-month program, leading into a 7th-month program. And we cover everything in God's clarity on your business. We help write a kingdom blueprint. We create a sisterhood that's pouring into each other spiritually as well as businessry, and just calling each other forth in life. And so we really take people's daydreams, right? They were never meant to stay dreams, and bring them to their destiny. And so what God has been laying on their heart, and really help them create a blueprint and get that towards launching. So
I love that.
Those are my hearts.
Did you say businessry?
Yes.
Okay, I want to go back there. I was like, I'm pretty sure that's what she said. I wrote it down.
Ministry business, right?
We are circling back to that. What is a businessry? That is amazing. Tell us more about that.
it's basically, we all have, every business should be a ministry. So we should be pouring into our coworkers and the clients we have, our bosses, if you're in a structure that way, or if you're an entrepreneur, you should be pouring into a sisterhood and letting them pour into you of other entrepreneurs. And so it becomes a businessry because yes, God gave you gifts and it's so okay to be paid for those. But also
Yes.
it needs to be a ministry. We always should be sharing the love of God and introducing him to grow the kingdom.
Girl, that is such a beautiful way to like say what we do around here, where we do this with God business, right? We are
Yeah.
CEOs, Christ empowered operators of a business tree. Like this is beautiful. I love how you coined that term. I hope you're trademarking that. Because this is like the intersection, even if, and I love how you talked about it doesn't matter which type of work setting you're in. It doesn't mean that we have to be Jesus out in front, every day, but it's like that's what's filling us and that's what's pouring out and that's what's driving
Right.
what we do. What a beautiful picture. So I always like to kind of like as get to know you a little bit by your journey.
Yeah.
So how did God get you to this place where you're helping women with their business tree? Like they take us a little bit on maybe what maybe ministry and business were like before they merged together in your life as a business tree, and then what inspired you to really step out and help women, boldly, like you said, in this.
Yeah. I love that question. That goes back after we had just adopted our second little boy from China. So we have two kiddos adopted from China. And so that made five altogether. And then we were also running our own business back in Washington State.
Mm,
So it was really full. And at that time, with the different areas of our journey, with therapies and medical visits, with finding the right schools and programs, extracurricular activities with my kiddos, I found myself really overwhelmed and really feeling like I couldn't breathe on the end of most days. And there's a particular day that I was in the walk-in closet, I call it my sanctuary of tears. And I was really crying out to God. I just felt overwhelmed. I did not, and the enemy comes in and says, you're not a good mom. You're not doing it right. You're not doing it well. And all those are lies. And so I would go to my sanctuary closet, and it happened to be a Saturday. So my husband was home with the kids. And after I cried out, I felt this peace over time. And then when I ventured back out to the living room, my husband put his arms around me and he said something in my ear. And he said, you know what? Maybe we're not supposed to have it all right, but we're supposed to just do it moment to moment. And
mm,
something leapt in my soul and my spirit when he said that. And I knew he had just uttered some words that he had no clue the magnitude and the magnificence oh my gosh, because God was to later add on. And so I later went on a power walk that night, and God just started talking to me about living moment to moment, and how now, with the emotion that was on, just the emotion of being a mom and the tenderness
right.
pouring in and the lack of self care, and just we would go from one moment that might be hard and carry the emotions of that moment to the next
Mm,
moment, and that might be
mm,
hard, and then the next moment might be great, but then the next moment might be hard. And by the end of the day, I was just so overweighted with all the emotions and the lies of the enemy
mm,
that stole away my sleep and stole my time with my husband, and I was just done. And so he was like, what if we just lived it moment to moment? And that's
mm,
how we started our journey from then on. And literally, we laugh about it now, but we would go through a moment and high five at the end and be like, everyone's alive, great moment. Or we would go, that was hard, could have gone better. And then we just kind of gave it to God in the moment. And so
mm,
then we were able to be fully present. And at the end of the day, I was finding we have some pretty darn good days and we have so much to be grateful for. And so that carried on that moment to moment. And I started a blog called Moment to Moment Masterpiece. And then that launched into our ministry, our nonprofit. And how
mm,
that got into how that got into my love for women's ministry is that on this journey that God took me in moment to moment, he started really speaking to me about grace for
mm,
myself and for others, definitely forgiveness, and living in the present, and not living waiting for the floor to drop out, but living in
mm,
expectation that he's going to be in it all, whether it's hard or whether it's awesome, whether we're celebrating with a dance party in our living room, or whether we're all on the floor or on the couch crying in tears because it was just a hard moment. And so when he started digging, really pouring in over the next like 8 years of my journey in these areas, I started to radiate freedom in my walk. I just started to feel like I wasn't coming and going from God's presence. I was in it all the time. And I was radiating this freedom. And people would say, you look so good. But it really wasn't. It wasn't me. It was God's light shining through me.
Yeah.
And people would ask about that. And I'm like, it's time for me to take these things that I've learned and done so in a place of struggle and suffering and crying tears in the closet, and now love on other women and call forth their awesomeness and to let them know how captivating they are to God. So, and I love business. I'm an entrepreneur from birth,
Yeah.
from
Right.
lemonade stands to I've always been an entrepreneur. I love it.
Yeah. Okay. I love this. I want to circle back to moment to moment. How
Yep.
often do we not live in the moment because we're so distracted? And how often do we just define ourselves, like we're like, oh, it was a bad day. It was a bad week. It's been a bad month. It's been a bad year. And it's like we kind of lump it all into one big thing of
Yeah.
badness instead of, like you said, like being like, okay, yeah, maybe that was a bad moment. Maybe that was a really hard moment or a sad moment or a frustrating moment. But guess what? There are mingled in there the good moments and the happy moments and the joyful moments. And so instead of saying, like, yeah, that this has been, a bad or a hard day, week, month, year, whatever, where then that can just drag us down. I love the idea of like every moment is a new opportunity for it to be
Yeah.
something else. And what a beautiful way to look at time and to look at life in a different way than, yeah, kind of throwing it all in the same pot and calling it, what we
Yeah.
do. So yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. And the walking in his presence, like ongoing, and just as you were talking about that, I was picturing, Moses when he would meet with the Lord, right? Like his face was glowing. I mean, people could
Yeah.
see that he had been with the Lord and that he was reflecting that. And I think that is a natural thing. We are filled up with him when we spend that time with him. It naturally will pour out of us
Yeah.
because, and I always say, like, when you get bumped is what shows what's really in your heart, like what spills
Yeah.
out when somebody knocks into you. Is it Jesus or is it you? And that's going to be impacted by how much time we're spending with him. So I love how these things are
Sure.
all coming together for you. So beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. And it's just neat how God writes our story. I mean, I know there were a lot of struggles in those moments and a lot of things you went through, but now you're able to take the comfort you received, right? And then comfort others with that same comfort in a way that, like, you understand, you get it, you know what
Yes.
it's like, to be in some of those positions and stuff like that. So I love this. And I love that you're going to be a speaker at the conference. So you
Yes.
guys, here's a plug for being a VIP. Okay. Because if you want to hear Elizabeth, she's going to be on VIP day, which means she's like special stuff. She's like exclusive content. She's like not everybody is going to get to hear what you have to say, but on here on the podcast, we're going to give you guys a little teaser so you can
Mhm.
hear and hopefully you'll be like, "Ooh, I want a VIP ticket." So your session, Elizabeth, is part of the VIP day. On VIP day, we are really focusing on it's time to accelerate your growth, right? Like we're doing all these things before the conference to get the growth started. At the conference, we're going to be sowing lots of seeds. And like, this is going to be that like final day for those who are really serious about like, okay, this growth is happening, this hundredfold,
Mhm.
type
Mhm.
of fruitfulness that only God can bring. So you're going to be leading us in all things CEO collabs. So tell us a little bit more about why our collaborations, you even mentioned the word sisterhood when you
Yes.
were talking earlier. So I wrote that down as well. Like why is collaboration, why is coming together with other sisters in Christ such a passion of yours? And why are you excited to speak on this topic?
Oh my gosh, this one I could talk all day about. But to be honest with you, I know you've thought about this, and they speak it a lot in churches and in ministries. But the way that you view God is a lot of ways the way that you viewed your earthly father. And so you know how some of us have had to walk through wounds and healing for things that have happened. And so if we felt rejected or distanced, we would automatically personify God in that way. And I really also believe that women and women friendships, we have the heart of a woman, and to go to a deep level of relationship, it's vast. And
Mm,
I also feel like when we are going and transforming in places deep in our soul with God, that women friendships can go deep. And so there is transformation there for women.
mm,
And I think that as we as we open up more authentically to women, that we really see in these female friendships the face of God. And I think that's so important. And like I mentioned earlier about being an entrepreneur, the enemy wants to lie to us like that. You have to be isolated and it's lonely. And then when we are in that place of loneliness, then we start to have that spirit of comparison come in. Like, I could never talk like her, or I could never this, or I could never that. And then you sometimes shut down or get stuck. But that's such a lie. God gave us each individual gifts. And that's what he talks about in the Bible, about the body of Christ. And if we're all working and aligning under that gift, or those gifts he gave us, then we're all working in the body of Christ. And so no one can put down your gift. The enemy can't put down your gift. It was put there. And he also places special people to your name on people's hearts to receive your gift throughout life. And so one is to combat that isolation. But truly, I just feel like the way the enemy has masterminded and tweaked and twisted female friendships, that we all have, we're leery to go deep. And that's just such a lie. Like, really, the vast majority of women and the vastness of our heart, we have to have female friendships. It's the way God designed us. And we can't get that level of depth. I mean, imagine going into a men's only retreat, like
Very different.
high five and this and that. And they might hug in this. But if you've ever gotten together with your 12, like your 12 disciples at a Bible study or whatever, you've got women hugging, you might play with someone's hair, someone might massage. It's just like, there's a tenderness in women that we need, and that fills us in a way that no marriage, no kids, no, you know what I'm saying? It can't.
Yeah.
And so it's super important that we combine these female friendships. And when you get women in business, man, they are on fire. They're smart, articulate, and they also have the nurturing depth. So not only do they call out your gifts and your strong points that elevate you, but they call forth life. And so if you're struggling, we don't stay on the surface in a sisterhood. So if you're struggling, or you are in your marriage, or maybe as a mom, or in your business, you can't fully receive what God has for you if those things are keeping you stuck or stagnant. And so being in a sisterhood is just as important to me as what we're teaching biblically in business realm. So
I love this.
Powerful.
Yeah. God created us to be in relationship. Obviously he is the perfect, friend, the one who will meet all of our needs, who is always there. And yet we do still have this need for there being somebody that, like you said, we can touch and feel and talk to and see and experience things together and all of that. And that's really what we're creating with the It's Time Conference experience, because it's not just when you show up in Nashville like this. The connection is happening now. Anyone who's already bought a ticket is already in the It's Time Conference Sister Connection, where we are connecting and getting to know each other. I want women to walk into the room already knowing and being known. Like, I want them to, even if they traveled by themselves and haven't met anyone else in real life before, that they're not going to feel that way. They're going to feel like, I am already part of the sisterhood and I do belong here. And this is just going to be that next piece of coming together in person. So I love that. We've entitled your talk, It's Time to Come Together in Collaboration, Not Competition. So don't give away all the good stuff, because that's why we got their ticket. But like, how are you going to help us think or do differently around our time in this area of collaboration and sisterhood and things like that?
I think that, the biggest thing with collaboration is that is how we're meant to be in the kingdom. And I think that at so many times there isn't competition, and there isn't a spirit of comparison in the kingdom. There's only collaboration, because like I mentioned before, we each have different gifts. And so I tell women, stay in your lane, because when you have this gift and you start to operate in it, you come alive, and you can see women, their demeanors just change when you get them talking on something that God has created passion in their hearts for. But when they get outside their lane, they're thinking, well, this person's good at that. I should learn all social media and all things, and I should learn this and I should learn that. But if you're operating in your gift, then God will open the doors for that. And I think it's so important, that we know that there is only collaboration. So as what you do, Lisa, is like, it's amazing, because you envelop time and redeeming your time in a way that I have never heard before. And we need that gift if we're going to be sort of like the Proverbs 31 woman, where specifically says she has commercial enterprises outside of her home. And that
Yeah.
doesn't mean
Multiple ones, multiple businesses, right?
exactly. She buys the field, and then later the vineyard comes, right? And so
Mm,
I feel that we're to collaborate. And we're to network. And when we do so, we, like I said before, we call each other's gifts out,
yeah.
and we are standing taller with each other.
Mm,
And we just have to combat those wounds that we've had in the past, and when we've
mm,
been let down, and just know that there has to be a depth of forgiveness in friendships.
mm.
And there has to be a depth of not living in offense. I call it get off the fence. Don't be defensive.
Yeah.
Don't be defensive, and don't live in offense. And so that's my little teaser. And just that I feel like we cannot be successful as female entrepreneurs in the kingdom entrepreneurs in our business trees, if we are not surrounded by a sisterhood.
I love this. And I love that you brought up the Proverbs 31 woman because I often touch on this because everybody says, how does she do it all? Like, how does she fit it all in? And if you know the culture in which that was written, it
Yeah,
was very community based. It was very much not like your islands to yourself and you're separated. I mean, she would have been
correct.
community and connection and supporting each other would have been a part of her everyday experience, whether she was walking to the market or she was going to, do her trading, and we hear about
I agree.
the leaders who are sitting out there and who are, having these conversations and talking, with her and about her. And yeah, you better believe she's not doing it on her own. We know she's doing it with the Lord, but she also, has other sisters that are coming alongside her as
Correct.
well. So yeah, I
Correct.
love.
Yeah, we were never meant to do all. I think women in the past look at the Proverbs 31 woman and they stop reading it because they're like, I feel overwhelmed just reading it. But that is not how he intended. He intended it as an encouragement.
Yeah.
And like you said, she did this and this, but she had a collaboration around her. That's the way they lived, like you said. And so that's what we need to be existing in.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait for this. This is going to be so much fun to be in real life together in Nashville. So, kind of give us the punchline. Like, how does us investing time in this area of collaboration and sisterhood, how does this overall affect our time and our RODI, our return on time invested, not only in business, but maybe even it has a ripple effect into other areas of our life? Like, kind of give us the why does this matter?
Yeah. Well, you know that I know that we have both talked about prayer and quiet time and how important that is to our businesses. And if God is our CEO, or I call him he's like the president of my board.
Yeah.
If I'm not spending time there, and if I'm not spending time praying with other women and pouring into them and them pouring into me, it's reciprocal, then I'm not going to be good
Yeah.
as good or even efficient in my own business. And so one of the things I do, and I don't want to, there's a special thing I do on Monday mornings, and I don't want to give it all away because I want to teach some of this, but it basically is aligning my day with him.
Mm,
And if he says to me, Elizabeth, and I would not have done this before because I replaced a spirit of striving with a spirit of faith and trusting him. And so if he says, I want you to walk across the street and check in on your neighbor, and I want you to have coffee, and
mm,
that is part of what he has on my to-do list, I know that when I am obedient like that, the next 3 hours are going to be so efficient. He's going to meet me in that place and honor that time. And
yeah.
so I do think if you're in a sisterhood and you are being poured into regularly and you're pouring into regularly, and leaders, this is also a myth. You like reach a certain level and you think, well, I can be leading all these. Of course you can. There's a
Mm,
lot of people that can lead the same ministry or type of ministry in different areas. We
mm,
need all women involved in it, right? But really one thing you can't do is be fatigued and burn out. So leaders
mm,
need to be led. You get compassion fatigue, you get things that where you're not producing and you get burnout. And
mm,
so as a leader, you need to be poured into and you need to pour into others. And so if all those things are in alignment, you bet your bottom line is going to be great. Your
yeah.
efficiency is going to be great. Your return on investment is going to be great. You're going to feel that your time is well spent. And I can't wait to dig into your planner. So to be continued, because I can't wait I know your concepts are going to just blow my mind away. So
Yeah, we are going to have such an amazing time
yes,
when we are in Nashville in September. But you guys, we're already hanging out online inside the conference Sisters Connection, which is just for ticket holders.
yeah,
We're already starting to shift how we approach time, right? And if you're hearing Elizabeth, if you're a VIPer, you are also not only getting access to a private podcast over these next few months before the conference to prepare you, you are also getting live coaching calls with me and every other VIPer, including Elizabeth. So that way we can really dig in and start applying things and start, like working with one another and encouraging one another and things like that. So you're not going to want to miss out on hanging out with Elizabeth and some other amazing women as well. So Elizabeth, outside of hanging out with you in Nashville and inside of that connection area for conference attendees, where can people hang out with you now if they want to, connect more with you?
Yeah, thanks. Well, obviously my platform on Instagram is the Moment to Moment Ministries, and it's moment with the number 2 Moment Ministries.
Mm,
And then we also have BFFS, which is our Bold Faith Freedom Sisters, and that's the same on Facebook and Instagram. And
fantastic.
yeah, so
Yeah.
these are the best places. And I do want to say one thing about this, the virtual. I used to not be as open to virtual because I just didn't grow up. I didn't have a computer until college, right? And so
Right.
I have learned that the virtual is amazing. You can feel so connected and close to someone. And so I want to urge everyone to get in to your connector hub and be doing this in your Redeemer Time connection place, because the time you come to Nashville, you will run up and hug this person like you've known them forever. It's a really beautiful place to be. And I'm telling you, anything I ever thought about the virtual, out the window. I think it's
Right.
amazing. I think it's amazing. And I have literally been in coaching, I have been being coached, not,
Mhm.
and then met these women after the 7 months at like a retreat or something. And it's the deepest, most
Right.
intimate Christ connections. So I just want to encourage everyone to use it, to use it, to use it. And you will be whiffed for sure.
Yeah, right. I love this because this is exactly what we're creating. It's not just the conference in September, because how many times have you bought a ticket to an event, that registration sat in your inbox somewhere and got buried until it was time to figure out how to
Right.
get yourself there. And then you
Right.
walk in the door going, I don't even know anybody, or maybe there's one person that I know or
Right.
something like that. Like, no, once you get your ticket, you are in a sisterhood. The growth starts, the connection starts, the
Right.
shifting our beliefs starts, that everything starts, so that, like you said, when you walk in that room, it's like, oh my goodness, and this is how I feel with you. Like, we've never met in person, but when we walk into Nashville, I'm going to feel like, I'm just hugging a friend that I've seen, a bazillion
Right.
times. And so,
Yeah, you
yeah,
can definitely know people's hearts through
yeah,
this. And so, yes, I encourage everyone to get on and utilize it. It's an incredible sisterhood. Yeah.
yeah. So that leads us to our last question today, right? Like,
Yes.
we're already experiencing a lot in the pre-conference, arena. We're going to be experiencing an amazing time together. I have so many special things planned for you guys when we're in Nashville. But in case someone listening today has not grabbed a ticket yet, why do you say that she should be part of the It's Time conference experience?
Well, like I mentioned about 10 minutes ago, I think that what you've created in your own entrepreneur walk, in your business tree, is amazing. And I
Mm,
know that other people I've talked to about it said they've never heard anything like this. It is possible to have what you want and what God's called you to, and not be exhausted and not be striving. And so the time piece is so important, because people will say things like, end of the day, if I only had more hours, and then you'd fill them, you know? And so the way you have woven that into all the elements of it, of having a solid business, I think it's going to be unlike people have heard before in other coaching places. So I feel like it's going to be a lot of new for me as well. And I'm excited. And so I think everyone needs to buy a ticket and get there.
yeah, so get a ticket, consider being a VIP, so get to be part of Elizabeth's session,
I would
which is
love to
going to be
hang.
on VIP day. And yeah, we're going to hang out. It's going to be such a blast. I cannot wait to give lots of hugs and high fives and all the things when we're together. So thank you, Elizabeth, for hanging out with us
My
today and
pleasure.
for
My pleasure.
committing to being part of this event. I know that God has amazing things planned, and I'm excited to see what that looks like. So, all right,
Yes.
you guys, here's the thing. Don't just listen to this and say, that's great. I wish I had a sisterhood like this. We are offering you an opportunity right now. So if you haven't already, go to redeemhertime.com/conference. Grab your conference ticket ASAP so you can get in on the pre-conference connection and resources that are happening. Send this episode to a business bestie or two, somebody else that you're like, hey, let's build our sisterhood up a little bit more. Like, let's really be
Yeah.
intentional about this collaboration over competition and this coming together for our business trees to support and encourage and, help one another, like call out, the gifts that God has put. I think we all need this gift. And so I'm so glad you brought this to us today, and I can't wait to dive in more soon. So, all right.
Thank you.
We will see you all soon over inside the community and in Nashville. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for being with us today.
Thank you. We should say bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.